Welcome to CS Tech Solutions. Today is Learn AWS DevOps Chart Sheet. Today is the topics of Linux command in subtopics as the system configurations and management. And first command as the cron tab as the schedule the periodic task and use to automatic commands or the script at the specific date and times, and you can run the task of hourlies and dailies, weeklies, monthlies, or at customs intervals. And the example as the cron tabs and hyphen I e, and then the add as the zeros, twos, and stars and slash home slash the user slash the backup.sh. As the run the backup.sh is the every days at 2 a.m. and system STL is the control the system MD is the systems and the service managers and the manage the system services at the start, stops, status and enables and the system stats. And the example is systems and STLs as the start is Apache 2 and second is systems STL as the stop the SSH and system STL is restart the Negesis and system STL as the enable the Dockers is the auto start at a boot, and the system STL as the status is MySQL, and the third command is service the start, stops and restart the services. The legacies commands is used to the SYS minitin systems and the still support for the compatibilities, and the examples that the service SSH starts and the service negations at the restarts and the service crons at the stop, and the system STLs is preferred on the modern Linux systems. And this command is time date and SCTL is a query and change the system clock. The used to view or the modify the date, times and time zones, and view the current times and the settings at the time, date and CTL, and set the time zones at the time, date, CTL, and set hyphen time zones and Asia slash Kolkata, and enable the NTP and automatic time synchronize and time, date and CTLs, and set hyphen NTP and is true. And reboot command is the restarts the systems, and the reboot is the computers is safely, and example as a reboot or the scheduler's reboot is shut down the hyphen R plus 10, and the reboot in the 10 minutes, and shutdown is the powers off of the systems and used to half or power off and or the restart the systems, and the power off immediately set the shutdown now, and the power off after the 5 minutes at the shutdown plus 5, and the restarts at the shutdown hyphen R and now. Linux command at the 13th subtopics is the containerizations and virtualizations, and the Docker is command is manage the Docker curtains, and the Docker is the commands lines tools is used to work with the Dockers and the platforms for the buildings, runnings and managing the controlization applications and actions, and the command examples as the list of the running the constraint as the docker nps is used, and the list of all the constraint as the docker ps and hyphen a, and run the constraint as the docker run and the negations is used, and the starts and stop the contents at the Docker start, and the containers and slash the Docker stops and the containers, and at the remove the containers at the Docker's rm and the containers, and view the image at the Dockers and images, and pull the image at the Docker pull and the Ubuntu's, and build the image at the Docker build -t and my apps and dot. Second command is kubectl is manage the Kubernetes clusters, and the kubectl is the Kubernetes controls, and it is used to interact with the Kubernetes clusters, and which is the chesters, and the manage and the scales and the multiple constraint and cross the many servers, and the actions and command examples, and the view the clusters node as the kube and ctls, and get the nodes, and the list is ports at the kubectls, and get ports, and view the services is kubectls, and get the svc, and deploy the applications as the kubectls as applied the -f and deployment dot YAML, and delete the sources at the kubectls, and delete the ports and ports names, and describe the ports details at the kubectls, and describe the port and ports names, and view the ports and logs at the kubectls, and log and ports names is there, and scale deployment as the kubectls, and scales deployment, and my apps and double iphone replace as equal the 5, and the Kubernetes ensures the auto dash scannings and self handlings at the restarts, and fail the constraint, and the load blessings, and rolling the deployments is used. And Linux command as a 14th subtopic is git versions control at the git, and the command is git status at the show the status of the changes, and the details is display the modify stages, and the untracked files in the workings in the directories, and syntax is git and status, and the example is the same as a git and status. And the second command is git add as add the files to the stagings, and details is move the change the files from the workings the directories to staging the areas to prepare for the commit, and syntax is git add and the file names, and git dot add and git add and dot is there, and the example at the git add index.html is the add the single files, and git.add and git add and dot is add the all the modified files, and second command another command is git commit as the commit and changes, and details is saved the stages in changes to the local repositories with commit the messages, and syntax is git commit -m and double underscore as the committed message, and example as a git commit and -m and double quotes add the logging from the and the validations is that, and another as the git push command as the push the changes to the remote repositories, and the details as the upload the commit from the local repositories to the remote repositories, and the syntax is git push and as a remote and the branches is there, and the example as a git push and the origins and mains is there, and another command is git pool. The pools is changed from the remote repositories. The details is fetch and merge the changes from the remote repositories to the local branches, and the syntax is git and the pools and the remote and the branches. And example as a git pool and the origins and mains is there. Git kernel at the crown the repositories at the details is create a new local project directories and the copied from the remote repositories, and the syntax is git crowns and repositories there's urls, and example as a git crowns and https colon the double slash github.com slash the users and slash project.git, and another command git remote and -v is show the urls of the remote repositories, and the details is display all the connected remote repositories with the fetch and push the urls, and the syntax is git remote and -v, and the example as a git remote and -v, and the output is origins https colon the double slash github.com slash the user slash the project dot git, and the fetch and origins https colon the double slash github.com slash the user slash the project dot git, and is a push, and the git remote add is at the add a new remote repositories, at the delete is link the new remote repositories to your the local project, and the syntax is git remote add, and the names and url is there. Example as a git remote add and the origin and https colon the double slash github.com slash the user slash the project dot git, and another command git remote remove at the remove the remote repositories, at the details is the delete the remote connections, and the syntax is git remote and remove the names, and the example as the git remote remove and the origins. And last command is git remote and renames. The rename the remote repositories. The details is change the names of the remote without altering the urls, and syntax is git remote renames and old names and new names. Example as git remote renames the origins and upstreams. Thank you to watch the videos. Please subscribe the channel, on the notification and bell icon. Thank you so much to watch the videos.